guys. Welcome to math this morning. Thanks so much for being here. You guys are amazing. I love being your teacher this semester. I need to let you know that next week I am not going to be doing live classes. I am actually heading on a ski trip with my oldest son and my husband. We're going to drive up to Canada and ski a few resorts there. So anyways, I'm really excited about that. I am going to miss you guys. But while I am gone, you will still have work to do. So I am going to email you the list of things that I need you to do. There is going to be 3 new lessons. There will be some practice problems that you need to do with me during a video, and then there will also be a quiz to take. Okay, so if you end up having any questions on those things while I'm gone, I will be happy to meet with you when I get back. Okay, so I hope you guys have an awesome week next week, and please get those things done. Okay, please continue to keep up in this class. We are soon going to be done with block 1, which means that if you are passing, you will have earned back your first semester Math 1 credit. Okay, and then during the block 2 time, we are going to be working on earning back your semester 2 Math 1 credit. So at the end of this year, you will have all of your Math 1 credit. That is, if you continue to keep up. Okay, so with that said, we're going to go ahead and move on to today's lesson. So far in our graphing unit, we have learned about the coordinate plane and how to plot points. We have learned how to graph a line using a table of values and the x and y intercepts. Today, we are going to learn all about slope. And this is a really important thing for this unit. We're going to be talking about slope a lot, and then we are going to be using slope to graph a line using slope intercept form. Okay, so this is the next thing that we're going to learn, but we first have to learn about slope. Okay, so slope is a useful skill, and it's the slant of a line, basically. That's what the slope is. And the slope is always going to be a fraction. Sorry, my pen is having a hard time writing today. So slope is always going to be a fraction, okay? And slope tells us which direction the line runs and how steep it is. So the steepness of a line, that's what slope is. Slope can be positive, it can be negative, it can be 0, or it can be undefined. Slope is found by finding the change in y over the change in x. So this is where our fraction comes in. We always have a fraction of the change in y over the change in x. Or we can say the rise over the run. Okay, so when we're finding slope, it's opposite of plotting ordered pairs. Okay, so when we're finding slope, we always find the difference in how we're moving up or down first. That goes on the top of our fraction. And then we find the change in how many we moved to the left or to the right. Okay, so this is going to be opposite of how we plot ordered pairs. When we plot ordered pairs, we always go to the x first and then the y. Okay, but when we do slope, we're going to do the y first over the x, so the change in y over the change in x. So a line with a positive slope rises left to right. Okay, so you can see this line right here has a positive slope. And if we were to figure out how we move to get from this point to this point, can you see we're moving up and to the right? Okay, so because we're moving up and to the right, we're moving up to the right 1, we're going to end up with a positive slope. Okay, a negative slope falls left to right. Okay, so you can see to get from here to here, we're going to have to move down and to the right. We have to move down 2 to the right 3. And anytime you have a negative over a positive, that ends up being a negative answer. Okay, so a line with a positive slope is going to move up and to the right. A line with a negative slope is going to be down and to the right. Okay, it's going to fall left to right. The next one, a line with a 0 slope is horizontal. So remember, slope is the steepness of a line. So it completely makes sense that if a line is horizontal, like it has no steepness at all, right? This line has 0 steepness. So anytime you have a horizontal line, your slope is always going to be 0. And then when you have a vertical line, your slope is going to be undefined. And that is because if we were to count from this point to this point, we would be moving down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And then to the right or left, 0. And in math, anytime you have 0 underneath your fraction, that is called undefined. So you need to remember that if a line is a horizontal line, it has 0 slope. If a line is a vertical line, it has a slope that is undefined. If a line is falling to the right, it's going to have a negative slope. And if a line is rising to the right, it's going to have a positive slope. So we can actually find the slope by graphing the line and counting the rise over the run, or by using the slope formula. And we're going to talk about both of these different ways today. So one of them is by graphing and counting. The other one is by using the slope formula. Okay? So let's say we want to find the slope of this line right here. Okay, so you can see we have this line graphed. There are 2 points that have already been picked. So this point right here to the right, 8, down 1, and this point right here, -1 to the left, and then up 2. So if we want to find the slope by graphing and counting, the graph has already been done. So now we're going to count the change in the y-axis. Okay, so how many did we move up or down to get to our next point? That's going to be the top of our fraction. And then we need to do the change in the x. So how many did we move to the right or to the left? Okay, so from here to get to here, okay, can you guys see that from here to here, we have to move up 1, 2, 3. Okay, so our change in the y-axis here is a +3. Okay, so that's the top of our fraction, 3. Okay, then, so once we're here, to get over to, so once we're here, to get to here, we're moving to the left. Okay, so anytime you move to the left, that's going to be negative. So from here to here, we have to move to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces. So since we're moving to the left, it would be a -9. Now you can see that this line is falling to the right. So we know that it has a negative slope, and that's what we found. Okay, a positive number divided by a negative number does give us a negative. And we can actually simplify this fraction. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 9, -3. And both of these answers are actually correct. Okay, because if we were to move from this point, so if we were to move up 1 to the left 3, do you see how we still land on the line? If we were to move up 1 to the left 3, we're going to land on the line every time. Up 1 to the left 3, okay? So the slope of this line is always up 1 to the left 3. That's its steepness for the entire line. Okay, another way to find slope is by using the slope formula. So one way is by graphing and counting. Another way is by using the slope formula. So to use the slope formula, you need to identify 2 points that are on your line. And then you're going to label them as point 1 and point 2. Okay, so this is point number 1. This is point number 2. Because if we want to use the slope formula, we have to take y from our second point minus the y from the first point. That's going to be our change in y. Then we have to take the x from the second point minus the x from the first point. That's going to be our change in x. So here we go. Let's go ahead and label these points. This is the x from our first point. This is the y from our first point. Okay, this is the x from our second point. This is the y from our second point. So what we do is we just take this formula, we plug into it exactly like it says. Okay, so instead of this y of our second point, we know the y of our second point is 2 minus. Instead of the y of our first point, we know the y of our first point is 1 over. Instead of the x of our second point, we know that that is a 1 minus. The x of our first point is a -2. Okay, so when we're finding the slope using the slope formula, we write the formula exactly like it is, only we plug in the things that we know, and now we just simplify. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 minus a -2. This is really going to be 1 plus a +2. Okay, so our slope is 1/3. Now the m in math means slope, and I'm not quite sure why they picked m as the variable, but they did. Okay, so anytime you see m, that just means slope. So let's go ahead and try another one using the slope formula. Okay, so let's go ahead and find the slope of line B by using the slope formula. We're going to just use this formula. We're going to write it just like it is. Okay, in order to fill in these, we need to label our points. Okay, so this is point number 1. This is point number 2. This is the x of point number 1, the y of point number 1. This is the x of point number 2. This is the y of point number 2. Okay, so now let's put our slope formula here. So let's go back to our formula. M is equal to the y from the second point, which is -2, minus the y from the first point, which is 2, over the x from our second point, right? That's the next thing that goes into our formula. So the x from our second point is a 3, minus the x from our first point, which is also a 3. Okay, so -2 minus 2. Now we're just going to simplify. That's a -4. 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, do you guys remember when you have a 0 underneath your fraction? That is called undefined. So the slope of this line is undefined. And if we were to plot these points and graph the line B crosses through the point 3, 2, and it also crosses through the point 3, -2. Okay, so we can see that this is a vertical line. If I would have drawn that straight, we can see that this is a vertical line. And anytime you have a vertical line, your slope is going to be undefined. Okay, so we're going to do one more of these together, and then I am going to have you move to another video where we will do some more practice problems. Okay, so if we want to find the slope of line C, using the slope formula, our first step is to label our point. So this is the x of our first point, the y of our first point. This is the x of our second point, the y of our second point, okay? And then we know our slope formula is y from the second point minus y from the first over x from the second point minus x from the first. So now we just plug in what we know. We know that the y of the second point is 3. We know the y of the first point is 4. We know the x of the second point is 0. And we know the x of the first point is -3. So 3 minus 4 is -1. 0 minus 3 is -3. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, so our slope for line C is 1/3. Okay, so go ahead and join me in the next video. Thanks, you guys.